I never expected a little girl's hug would change a millionaire's life forever. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The sunlight filtered through the tall glass windows of my penthouse, casting long shadows across the cold, marble floor. My heart was pounding, each beat echoing like thunder in my ears. I had it all: money, cars, the respect of my peers. Yet, I felt emptier than ever. I stood there, staring blankly at my reflection. I could see the weariness in my eyes, the way the corners of my mouth had turned down, even when I was alone. Where was the joy? Where was the fire that had once driven me? All I had left were the echoes of laughter from lavish parties that now fell flat in my memory. Then the door swung open. A small figure appeared, arms outstretched, a bright smile illuminating the dim room. It was Lily, my 8-year-old niece, tangled in her wild curls and a dress that clashed with every color imaginable. She rushed to me, her energy vibrant and infectious. My heart tugged, and I knelt down to embrace her. It was one of those hugs. The kind that's longer than it should be, filled with unspoken words. I could feel the warmth radiating off her small body, wrapping around me like a blanket. For a fleeting moment, everything faded away. "Uncle Michael, cheer up," she said, her wide eyes sparkling with innocence. "I made you something." She pulled out a crumpled piece of paper from her pocket, revealing a crude drawing of a stick figure with a big smile. It was me. I couldn't help but laugh. How simple it all seemed through her eyes. I felt a sharp pang in my chest, a mix of joy and guilt. Why couldn't I see the world as she did? But as the laughter faded, a heaviness returned. I looked out at the cityscape that spread before us. The skyscrapers, standing tall and imposing, felt like a prison. My life was a finely polished cage. There was something unsettling in that moment. A shiver ran down my spine as I realized that beneath the surface there were whispers of a greater struggle, shadows lurking just out of sight. "Why do you look sad, Uncle Michael?" she asked, breaking the silence. The innocence in her voice cut me deeper than any knife could. I wanted to shield her from my pain, but the truth was, my sadness was much bigger than both of us. Just then, her small hand slipped from mine, reaching for something behind the curtain. A loud crash resonated throughout the room, as she pulled a box into the light. Inside, glittering like lost treasure, was an old photo of my parents, my mother's eyes shining, my father's grin wide and true. Memories flooded back, the laughter of family dinners, love ringing through the air. But that warmth was swallowed by a chasm of regret. I was the last remnant of our once tight-knit family, now a broken shell, weighed down by expectations and failures. "Why did you stop smiling, Uncle?" Her words hung in the air, heavy and charged. I caught my breath, the lump in my throat steadying my pulse. Could a little girl truly understand the depths of my sorrow? I realized, at that moment, that this exuberant child might be my key to healing, but how? The corners of my mind flickered with doubt, questions begging for answers. What could a millionaire like me learn from an innocent hug? What secrets lingered in the shadows lurking in my thoughts? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash the like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Lily's voice was like a gentle breeze breaking through a storm, yet I could feel the tempest brewing within me. "I don't know, sweetheart," I managed, my words fragile, feeling like they might shatter at any moment. "Life can be complicated?" She tilted her head, the innocence in her eyes urging me to offer more. But what if it was just simple? Like drawing a picture? Her remark struck a chord deep within me. The simplicity she spoke of echoed the laughter and love I once knew. Yet the complexity of my life felt woven into the very fabric of who I was. I gazed out at the city, at the hurried lives of strangers, and it hit me how universally lost we were, trapped in our own lives, far from the innocent clarity of childhood. Why don't we go outside? I suggested, trying to distract myself from the heavy thoughts that clung to my chest like a weight I couldn't lift. You like the park, right? Her eyes sparkled with excitement. Yes. The swings. We walked hand in hand, her tiny fingers grasping mine, pulling me toward the elevator as if it were the golden gate to some far-off paradise. I couldn't remember the last time I'd taken a stroll without thoughts of business deals or the relentless tick of impending deadlines. But today felt different. The weight felt slightly lighter, just for a moment. As we stepped outside, the world unfolded around us, a bustling city alive with energy. Children laughed in the distance, their joy an almost palpable thing. The air was crisp, and with each step, I felt something flicker within me, memories of simpler times igniting a long-dormant flame. When we arrived at the park, Lily darted toward the swings, her laughter floating behind her like a melody that stirred something deep within me. I watched her, a bittersweet smile creeping across my face as I took a seat on a nearby bench. She pumped her legs furiously, sending herself soaring high, her hair dancing like sunlight in the wind. Yet, while the laughter rang sweet, I felt the sharp pang of loneliness creeping back in. The thrill of her joy highlighted the absence of my own, an emptiness gnawing at my heart. I longed to share in her excitement, to feel that abandon once more, but I was encased in layers of disappointment and guilt. Lily soon tired of the swings and came bounding back to me, her cheeks flushed with happiness. Uncle Michael, come play with me, she urged, tugging at my arm. I hesitated, the echoes of my responsibilities forming an invisible wall. But her pleading gaze pierced through, and I found my heart responding against the weight of my anxieties. All right, let's see if I can still swing with the best of them, I chuckled, getting up. As we swung together, I closed my eyes, allowing the rhythm to carry me. For just a moment, the world around us faded, and I felt the simplest joy wash over me. That joyful tranquility, however, was fleeting. As Lily and I attempted to build a sandcastle, her little hands working diligently with the bucket and spade, I noticed a man in a tailored suit watching from a distance, his expression unreadable. I felt a shiver creep up my spine. Who was he, and why did he feel so intrusive in this serene moment? Just then, a sharp tone sliced through the laughter. Michael! There you are! Another figure emerged from the haze, my business partner, Nathan, cell phone in hand, his face rigid and serious. We need to talk. It's urgent. The joy of the moment fractured. Can't it wait? I replied, my voice almost pleading. No, it really can't. It's about the merger we were discussing, he began, but I could barely hear him over the pounding in my chest. Lily, oblivious to the tension, looked between us, her joyous demeanor beginning to dim, the shadow of adulthood creeping back into my life. Uncle Michael? She asked softly, uncertainty in her voice. I knelt beside her, desperate to keep her gaze focused on me, to shield her from the encroaching storm. It's okay, Lily. Just 1 minute, I assured her, hoping my words held the power to erase the shadows threatening to descend. But as Nathan continued to speak, the words blurred into a hum. All I could see was my little girl, her innocent spirit shining like a beacon. I realized that the battle I faced wasn't just within me, it was for her too. Suddenly, I heard Nathan's voice cut through again, louder this time. If we don't move forward, we risk losing everything. The weight of his statement crashed over me like a wave, pulling me under as my heart sank. A decision loomed ahead, one that could derail everything I had worked for, but it could also mean losing the light in Lily's eyes. Caught in the crossfire of dual lives, one rooted in machines and money, the other in the pure, irreplaceable love of a child, I felt a choice forming. What kind of man did I want to be? Uncle Michael? Lily asked again, worry etched across her rosy cheeks. My heart tore at the sound of her voice. The last thing I wanted was to dim her spirit. But as I locked eyes with Nathan, and then with her, the realization struck hard: someone had to make a choice. Her innocent gaze prompted me to question everything, pulling me teetering toward the edge of a revelation long buried. Before I could respond, Nathan's phone buzzed violently in his pocket, a distraction slicing through the moment. Just then, I knew I was at a crossroads, one that could change everything, and the stakes felt terrifyingly high. I exhaled, decision looming, but the world around me faded into a blur. As if the universe conspired against clarity, a distant shout interrupted, sending my heart racing. I turned just in time to see a child stumbling toward us, eyes wide and terrified, the unmistakable sound of something breaking in the atmosphere. And without thinking, I shot to my feet, instinctively stepping between Lily and the unknown. All I could feel was the surge of protectiveness, the instinct that I would do anything to keep her safe. In that instant, I had no idea that the coming moments would shake the foundation of everything I thought I knew. The piercing shout echoed through the park, slicing through the laughter like a knife. "Help! Help!" It was a boy, perhaps no older than 7, his face streaked with dirt and panic. He was alone, darting toward us, his small frame trembling with urgency. My heart raced as I instinctively moved closer to Lily, who clutched my side with her tiny hand. "What's wrong?" I shouted, kneeling down to meet the boy's frightened gaze. They won't let me leave," he gasped, breathless. "They're taking my puppy. You have to help me." Without pausing to clarify, the child spun on his heel and began to sprint in the direction he'd come from, terror propelling him forward. A wave of confusion washed over me. My thoughts spiraled. Who could possibly be taking a puppy in broad daylight? "Uncle Michael, should we go with him?" Lily's voice trembled, her innocence suddenly shadowed by the urgency of the situation. I hesitated. Just moments ago, we'd been basking in playful simplicity, and now the threat of something so dark loomed in the air. Nathan glanced at me, his own expression transitioning from shock to concern. "Michael, let's just stay here. It's not our problem." But the boy's panicked gaze lingered in my mind, and I could feel Lily's eyes on me, searching for my guidance. "Lily," I taking a deep breath, I felt the weight of my decision press like a hand on my chest. "We have to help." I grabbed Lily's hand, and together, we darted after the boy. The park erupted into a flurry of movement, laughter fading behind us as we crossed the expanse of grass toward a copse of trees. The possibility of immediate danger weighed down my stomach like a stone, but I couldn't look back. Not with Lily at my side. As we navigated the thickets, I called out, "Wait, where are you going?" The boy glanced back, tears welling in his eyes. "Over here. They have my puppy." When we finally broke through to a small clearing, my heart sank. 2 older boys loomed over a squirming ball of fur, a small golden retriever desperately trying to escape their clutches. Panic surged within me as I moved forward instinctively, desperate to intervene before something truly horrific occurred. "Hey! Let him go!" I shouted, standing tall, determined to protect. The boys turned, our eyes locked, one of them smirking as if he were unfazed by the thrill of tormenting a defenseless creature. "What are you gonna do about it, old man?" I could feel adrenaline coursing through my veins. "You can't do this. It's that boy's dog." At my side, I noticed Lily's small hand tighten around my own, her gaze wide with apprehension yet fierce with determination. The sight of her strength filled me with renewed courage. "Run back and get help," I instructed her, knowing she'd be safer away from the confrontation. No. She protested, her voice a small rebel cry against my command. "I can help too, Lily, please," I urged, trying to convey the gravity of the situation. But strong as she was, the fear settling within her eyes pushed me to reconsider. The smirk from the older boy grew wider, sensing the discord between us. "Looks like you've got yourself a little sidekick there. What's she gonna do? Pet us to death?" In a moment of pure instinct, I stepped forward, ready to close the distance, to snatch the puppy from their grasp. But before I could make a move, I felt a hand firmly grip my shoulder. I turned to find Nathan standing behind me, his brows furrowed in concern. "We need to call the police, Michael. This can escalate quickly," he said, an urgency present in his voice that grounded me for just a moment, yet the split-second hesitation felt like treason. A wave of despair washed over me as I realized no matter what happened next, the innocence of this child and the desperation etched on his face were far more pressing. "Listen," I said, my tone lowering as I addressed the boys one more time. "Let the dog go. Now. There's no reason to hurt anyone." But rather than complying, one of the boys took a step forward with a challenge in his eyes. A battle was brewing, and I could feel the current shifting. Me heart raced, knowing I was on the precipice of a choice that went beyond even this moment. "Who do you think you are?" The second boy spat, eyes glinting with mischief as he leaned in closer to the puppy. Suddenly, before I could respond, a burst of courage surged inside me. I am someone who isn't afraid to stand up to bullies. With that, I surged forward, desperately trying to grab hold of the puppy. But as I moved, Lily's voice pierced through the chaos. "Please, just let him go. He's scared." Her plea rang out, breaking through the tension with a raw innocence that hung in the air. In that moment, I looked back at her, so small yet so fierce. The contrast between her innocence and the maliciousness of the older boys struck me hard, grounding me in the fight. As they laughed with cruel delight, it dawned on me that their laughter was nothing compared to the bond of love I felt for Lily, and the shelter I wanted to provide for that terrified puppy. The world had been growing more complicated, more uncertain, right at that very moment, yet in Lily's plea, I felt something shift within me. A voice where almost beyond my own said, "You are stronger than you know." Just as I lunged toward the puppy, time seemed to slow. And then, right before my grasp would connect, a cracking sound, echoed through the forested area. All eyes turned, including mine, to the source of that terrifying noise, knuckle deep in reality, hitting me with fresh realization. I could feel the tremors ripple through the ground beneath my feet. And as the dust settled, a shadow danced behind the trees, moving with purpose. At that moment, clarity and chaos intertwined in an inexplicable way. Everything around me felt ready to erupt when the realization hit with startling clarity. Whatever came next, I knew something fundamental was changing, and if I wasn't careful, it could sweep us all away. I stood frozen in place, paralyzed by the rift between bravado and reality as the shadows shifted ominously behind the trees. The moment stretched, my heart pounding as I fought against the rising tide of panic. Lily's grip tightened around my hand, her little fingers trembling, mirroring the whirlwind of emotions inside of me. "What was that?" she whispered, her voice barely above a breath. Before I could answer, the older boys exchanged glances filled with hesitation, their bravado waning in the wake of uncertainty. The puppy whimpered, its small body quaking against the ground, and I refocused my attention, trying to block out the incongruence of courage competing with fear. "Don't move," one of the boys hissed, his voice laced with trepidation. "What if it's someone looking for trouble?" I tilted my head, praying that whatever lay hidden in the trees wouldn't be the trouble we feared. As the rustling intensified, I sensed a strange dynamic in the air, a crossroads where fear danced with hope. There was danger bubbling beneath the surface, yet an unsettling calm was washing over me. Then, from the thicket, a figure emerged, tall and elegant, dressed in a tailored suit that seemed entirely inadequate for the chaos surrounding us. The man's face was obscured by a pair of dark sunglasses, and I instantly felt a disquieting disconnect. How could someone in such attire be stepping into a confrontation like this? The older boys exchanged nervous looks, unsure if they should continue their menace or retreat. The tension skyrocketed, each heartbeat echoing through the clearing, synchronizing with the rhythmic beating of my own pulse. "Hey!" the stranger called, his voice steady but firm. "What's going on here?" It was as if a switch had been flipped. The boys' demeanor shifted drastically, their bravado crumbling. "Nothing," one of them muttered, glancing at the puppy as if it held the sins of their actions in its eyes. "Let the dog go," the stranger commanded, stepping closer. He held no authority but spoke with an unyielding confidence that dogged the boys forward. I watched as their resolve faltered in his presence, like a campfire extinguished by a sudden gust of wind. Taking advantage of the distraction, I moved, scooping up the puppy in one swift motion. It squirmed against me before finally nestling close, sensing the safety I promised. Just then, a flicker of movement caught my attention. The older boys, apparently sensing their moment slipping away, began to retreat into the shadows, the aura of intimidation that had once enveloped them dissipating with each step. "Don't run away, you cowards!" I shouted, wanting to both encourage their retreat and demand accountability. But as they disappeared into the thicket, a heavy weight settled over me. I was left with the growing realization that while a victory had been claimed in saving the puppy, the danger lurking in the periphery was not gone. "Are you all right?" The stranger's voice curled around me like a warm blanket, breaking through to the reality of the moment. The sunglasses concealed his gaze, but I felt a safe earnestness radiating from him as he leaned down to examine the puppy, his gentleness contrasting sharply with the earlier chaos. "Yes," I replied, feeling a rush of gratitude as the puppy nestled deeper into my arms. "I am glad," he said, pulling off his glasses and revealing piercing blue eyes. There was kindness there, but beneath the surface, a storm raged. "But it's not safe here. How did you end up in the middle of all that?" Her voice trembled beside me. "We were just helping him find his puppy." The stranger turned his attention to Lily, and I watched as her brave spirit lit up his face with surprising warmth. "You're very brave," he said. It takes a lot of courage to help someone in trouble. How old are you? 5, she declared, her chin held high. A brave 5-year-old, he chuckled, momentarily lightening the air around us. Do you know what you need now? Lily's eyes widened with anticipation. A home for the puppy? Exactly. He grinned, nodding towards the now blooming connection between us. Let's get this little one to a place where it can be safe. Come with me. But as he turned, leading the way, I felt an ache of reluctance. Wait, I pleaded, that early rush of emotion tightening my throat. What about the boys? They could come back. We need to tell someone, trust me, he replied. There was an urgency in his tone that brooked no argument. They won't come back, they have other matters to attend to. But we do need to get this puppy checked out. Realization surged through me. There was so much going on, things I couldn't comprehend. Hesitation fluttered in my chest, but Lily tugged on my shirt. Uncle Michael, please, can we go? The puppy needs help. Nodding, I felt the weight of my choice. Whatever doubts I had about this stranger, about leaving the scene behind, I was forced to make a decision. The boy who had run to us was still out there. Part of me knew I couldn't pursue his story to its end without putting myself, and especially Lily, in jeopardy. All right, I agreed, the words heavy on my tongue. But, well, find out what happened to those boys. This isn't over. In that moment, the strange man turned to me, his expression uncertain but lingering on some unspoken understanding. You're right. But we need to keep moving. There are greater things at stake here than just a puppy. As we made our way forward, the forest behind us swallowed with uncertainty, a veil of unanswered questions clinging heavily in the air. And just when I thought we were stepping out of danger, the ground beneath my feet trembled once more, as if echoing a disturbance that would ripple through our lives with unforeseen consequences. That dread began to unfurl deep inside me. Who was this man really, and what had I thrown myself into? With every tentative step into the forest, I could feel the weight of uncertainty trailing behind us like a phantom. The stranger led the way, navigating the tangled underbrush with purpose, while Lily walked closely beside me, her small hand gripping my shirt. The puppy nestled snugly in my arms, its warmth a comforting presence amidst the growing unease. Do you live around here? The man asked, breaking the silence that cloaked our group. His voice held a gentle authority, the kind that seemed to have the ability to soothe even the most chaotic of hearts. In a small house near the river, I replied, my mind still mulling over the earlier incident. What's your name? Call me Jack, he said, glancing back at me with a smile that felt oddly reassuring. And you're Michael, I introduced, thumbing at the puppy's soft head when it gave a gentle whimper, its brown eyes blinking up at me. Nice to meet you, Michael. You're a brave one too. Not many would have stood up to those boys. His praise unsettled me, reminding me of the very moment I had feared. Wasn't thinking, really. I just wanted to protect Lily and the puppy. It felt like the only thing to do. That's what bravery is, he said, his words wrapping around me like a comforting cloak. When it seems impossible, you still act. A bitter laugh escaped my lips, betraying the turmoil brewing within me. While I was grateful to have saved the puppy and Lily, the nagging doubts about my inability to confront the greater issues loomed large. Bravery, it's easy to talk about, but it's a different story when your heart feels like it's being ripped apart. It's just, I don't know how to protect anyone when I can barely protect myself. Sometimes, Jack replied, his voice earnest. It's those small acts of courage that stir change. You might be surprised what comes from this. Just ahead, sunlight began to trickle through the trees, illuminating the path before us. The shifting shadows receded, and in that moment, I felt a flicker of hope igniting, small but persistent. Perhaps saving the puppy, ignited from the chaos, could be the first thread of change that led to something more. As we emerged from the forest, a quaint little cabin came into view, its log walls bathed in the gentle warmth of sunlight. This is where we can help the little one, Jack said, gesturing for us to enter. Inside, there was a cozy atmosphere, with the scent of cedar mingling with the faintest hint of baking bread. A kind old woman appeared from the kitchen, her worn hands spry as she wiped them on a floral apron. Oh, dear. What do we have here? She exclaimed, spotting the puppy. Her eyes danced with warmth, and I felt a sense of ease envelop me like a soft blanket. This little one needs care, Jack said, stepping forward to explain the situation. As he spoke softly to the woman, Lily seemed to brighten, her earlier courage bubbling back to the surface. Can we keep him?" she asked, her voice a pure melody of innocence. "Well, see if we can find the owner first," I replied reluctantly. The thought of letting the puppy go after such turmoil felt like a cruel twist. Lily's shoulders fell slightly, and in that moment, I could almost hear her heart cracking. Watching her fight to hold back disappointment made something shift within me. "Okay, how about this?" I started, kneeling down beside her. "We can help him get better, and if the owner doesn't show up in a few days, we can explore the idea of making him part of our family." The light that flickered in her eyes was like the dawn after a long night. "Really? We could keep him?" she squeaked, her excitement palpable. As the day melted into warmth and laughter filled the cabin, I realized how much I wished for this happiness to be eternal. But as kindness swelled around us, a shadow loomed at the edges of my consciousness. The unease from the boy's threat and the unease Jack carried lingered, weaving in uncertainty through the day's grace. Once the puppy was safely nestled in a makeshift bed, Jack approached me, his demeanor shifting from jovial to serious. "Michael," he whispered, his voice low enough to avoid Lily's eager ears. "You have to understand that what we just encountered was part of something larger. Those boys, they are connected to a dangerous network. I don't know how much you're aware, but this town is fraught with more than meets the EYE.my heartbeat quickened, visuals of bruised faces, empty eyes, desperate situations flickered through my mind. "What do you mean?" Before he could answer, a piercing shriek ruptured the jovial peace we had created, chilling the air and slicing through my thoughts. "Uncle Michael!" Racing back to where Lily had been moments earlier, I caught sight of her, eyes wide as she clung onto the doorframe, points of a few small boys emerging from the woods behind her. Panic surged through my veins. "What are they doing here?" I grimaced, barely able to keep my voice steady. Jack's expression grew grim, his earlier easy demeanor giving way to an unsettling resolve. "It's not over, not even close." And just like that, the fragile thread of hope I had begun to weave for Lily and the puppy began unraveling before my eyes, leaving us once again teetering on the precipice of danger, unprepared for the new storm that had just arrived. The chaos spun around me like a relentless whirlwind. Lily's terrified gaze remained locked on the boys, their laughter echoing against the trees like the cruel taunt of fate. Panic coursed through me, a sharp contrast to the warmth that had filled the cabin mere moments before. "Get inside!" I shouted, my voice breaking through the din. My instinct to shield Lily surged forth, a protective barrier attempting to enclose her, to keep her fear contained. But Lily remained rooted to the spot, her fragile form trembling as she watched the boys close in like predators on their prey. I could feel Jack's presence firm at my side, his own tension radiating like an electric current, a silent reminder that we were entangled in something far larger than ourselves. "Michael, stay calm," Jack whispered urgently, his eyes flicking back at the intruders. "We might be able to handle this, but we need to work together." "Handle what?" I shot back, the words bursting from my lips in a rush. "They don't seem to be here for a friendly visit." The boys were emboldened by our obvious fear, their previous bravado flaring like a flame. "You think you can just save the dog and walk away? We're not done with you!" Their leader shouted, a smirk gracing his face, twisted satisfaction dancing in his eyes. With a protective instinct, I stepped forward, placing myself in front of Lily. "You need to leave us alone," I said, finding strength I didn't know I had. "You don't know what you're dealing with." "Oh, we know plenty," he replied, a dangerous gleam in his eye. "We know enough to make your lives a whole lot worse." Lily finally found her voice, dampened by fear but still bright in the face of adversity. "You shouldn't hurt him," she cried, her tiny hands forming fists at her sides. She stepped forward slightly, surprising me, anger rising behind her wide eyes, innocent yet resolute. "He's just a puppy. And he's important to us." Her brave defiance caused the boys to snicker, a harsh sound that seemed to serve only to bolster their strength. "A puppy? That's what you're worried about? You're nothing but a little girl," the leader sneered, but in that moment, Jack edged forward, his calm demeanor contrasting sharply with the tension spiraling around us. "Perhaps it's time to rethink your approach," he said, his voice carefully measured. "You're playing a dangerous game here. You're not just messing with a puppy, you're threatening a family." The boys hesitated, their bravado wavering for the first time as they exchanged doubtful glances. My heart leapt at the slight shift, but it quickly plummeted as they regained their nerve. "This isn't over," the leader spat, eyeing Jack with a new sort of calculated malice. "Well, be back." And next time, you won't be so lucky. With that, they slinked back into the trees, shadows vanishing into the depths of the forest like the ghost of a nightmare retreating. The air around us grew thick with tension and disbelief, and I felt Lily's small body shake beside me. I knelt down, wrapping her in my arms as I took a breath, trying to steady both her and myself. "It's okay, I've got you," I murmured, cradling her close. A shroud of fear lingered, but amidst it, the warmth of her small frame ignited a flicker of hope within me. "They're just mean boys," she whispered, her voice muffled against my shoulder, the brave facade waning with the reality of what just transpired. Why are people like that? I had no answer, no comfort that could shield her from the harsh reality of life. Some people, they're lost, Lily. They've made choices that turn them into shadows. But we can be the light. We will always be the light. Jack appeared behind us, his eyes searching mine as a mix of concern and admiration flickered there. "You were strong," he said gently, crouching down to meet Lily's gaze. "And that takes a different kind of courage. Don't let them take away your spirit." I could see her spirit, battling against the clouds of doubt that had leached into her soul. "Can we keep the puppy?" she asked, gaze clinging to Jack as if he would give her strength. I found myself yearning for the simple joy she so desperately clung to. "We're going to take care of him, yes," I replied, squeezing her hand. "He's part of our family now, isn't he?" As she nodded, a tentative smile broke through the remnants of fear, lighting up her face like a beacon, igniting the hope that was hiding within me too. Perhaps we could turn this chaos into something meaningful after all. But as the shadows deepened outside the cabin and the sun dipped below the horizon, a new unease settled within me. I glanced back at Jack, and the weight of unspoken words clouded the air between us. "Michael," he said quietly, lowering his voice as if the darkness might carry his words away. "There's more to this. I don't want to scare you, but we may have to confront those boys again. When they come back, it won't just be for the puppy." A chill slithered down my spine, the flickering illumination of hope fighting against a tidal wave of uncertainty. "What do you mean?" His gaze grew somber, a shadow hiding behind his words. "They're part of something bigger, a network that thrives on fear. And when they realize that protecting Lily and the puppy means fighting back, they'll be prepared to do anything to extinguish that light." The enormity of what was unfolding gripped me like a vice. The boundaries I thought were safe began to fade, the reality became clearer, more menacing. And now, standing in the face of this lurking darkness, I couldn't shake the thought that every decision I had made had led us here, standing on the edge of a storm without the assurances of victory. Lily curled closer to the puppy on the couch, blissfully unaware of the foreboding dread hanging over us like an ominous cloud. And as she drifted off into a peaceful sleep, a warmth radiating from her, I felt like a candle precariously balanced against a powerful gust. "Michael," Jack said with urgency, breaking into my thoughts. "We need to prepare. For her sake and for the puppy's sake, we need to find a way to protect them." With the reality of the lurking storm crashing down upon us, I felt my heart thud with the weight of responsibility. "What are we going to do?" But before Jack could respond, a loud crash echoed from outside, a sharp, jarring sound that sent a bolt of fear coursing through me. I rushed to the window, and as I peered into the encroaching darkness, the silhouette of forms emerging from the woods twisted my gut into a knot. They were back. The shadows from the trees blended into the moonlit night, forming dark silhouettes that crept toward the cabin with predatory grace. My heart raced as I quickly turned to Jack, whose expression mirrored my own dread. "That noise," I stuttered, my voice barely rising above a whisper. "It came from the back. We can't let them near the puppy." Jack nodded but didn't move. Instead, he placed a steadying hand on my arm, grounding me in the moment. "We have to stay together," he urged, his eyes vigilant. "We can't let fear dictate our actions, especially in front of Lily." The weight of his words wrapped around me, forming a fragile strength that tried to defy the encroaching terror. As I turned back towards the window, the creeping figures became more distinct. 5 boys, their stances defiant as they neared the cabin. I gripped the windowsill, holding my breath, my mind racing for solutions. Lily, I suddenly remembered her sleeping on the couch, blissfully unaware of the gathering storm outside. "We need to get her to safety." "Right," Jack replied, moving swiftly. "I'll grab her. You keep an eye on them." With shaking hands, I peered through the glass, searching for any indication of their intentions. The boys exchanged hushed words, and for a brief moment, I thought they might turn back. But their leader raised a hand, the gesture striking through the air like a gunshot, igniting their spirits once more. "Let's teach them a lesson they won't forget," he sneered. My stomach twisted as the scent of violence filled the air. "Jack, hurry!" I whispered urgently, knowing we didn't have time to waste. Jack dashed toward Lily, his movements quick and graceful as he knelt beside her. "Lily, sweetheart, can you wake up for a moment? We need to talk," he said softly, his voice soothing yet urgent. Lily stirred, confusion blooming in her eyes as she groggily looked at Jack. "What's happening?" she asked, her small voice echoing the wariness resonating within me. "We need to move you to a safe place, honey. Can you do that for us?" Jack prompted, his expression intent yet gentle. "Why?" she questioned, her brows knitting together in concern. "Because there are some boys outside who don't understand that our family is more important than their games," I interjected, stepping closer. "But we can be brave together. Just like you were earlier." Her small head bobbed, resolute as she held the puppy tightly against her chest, determination illuminating her features even in the dim light. "I'm not scared," she declared, surprising me with her unwavering faith. "Good," Jack said, a proud smile breaking through the tension. "Now let's move quietly." As they moved towards the back of the cabin, I turned back toward the window, heart hammering as the boys approached closer, more confident now. I could see it in their faces, a blend of excitement and malice that twisted my gut in anguish. Suddenly, I noticed something gleaming in the moonlight, the unmistakable shape of a broken branch, jagged and sharp. A glimmer of a plan sparked in my mind, the essence of desperation igniting a fierce survival instinct. "Michael!" Jack's voice brought me back to reality, and I turned to see him standing by the door. "We need to barricade it before they get here." My heart sank. If they wanted to, the boys could easily break through. But I swallowed my anxieties and rushed to Jack's side, joining him in masking the door with every piece of furniture I could find: the small kitchen stools, the coffee table, the couch that housed Lily and her newfound joy. "Do you think it's enough?" Jack asked as I pushed the last chair into place, a lately formed sweat prickling at my brow. "It has to be," I replied, scanning the room, my heart pounding louder than the noises outside. "We need to protect her. We can't fail." With our makeshift barrier complete, we stepped back, taking a moment to catch our breath, fear hovering over us like a weight we couldn't shake. "Michael!" Jack's voice broke through my thoughts, low with urgency. "Listen, whatever happens next, we can't let them in. We fight together." A small voice piped up from behind us. "I'm ready." Lily had stood, clutching the puppy protectively, her small frame emanating a fierce determination. "I want to help," she declared, her bravery lighting a fire in my chest, despite the choking dread that had taken hold earlier. Before I could respond, a loud bang rattled the door, sending shivers racing down my spine. "You think you can keep us out? We know what you're hiding," the leader of the boys shouted, his voice dripping with malice. Jack and I exchanged a glance, the weight of our choices squeezing the hope out of me. "They're not going to back down," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "We need more time," Jack replied. "If we can just hold them back until daylight." But as I strained to hear through the cacophony of pounding fists and raucous laughter, the realization hit me that time was not a luxury we could afford. But then came a second revelation, one that made my blood run cold and heated my emotions all at once. My phone buzzed in my pocket, and I fumbled to pull it out. The number was unknown, but I grasped it, a thread of instinct propelling me to answer. "Michael," a voice on the other end growled, edged with a sinister calm. "You think this is just about a puppy? You have no idea what you've gotten yourself into. These boys? They belong to a group that's watched you for a long time, and they won't stop until they've reclaimed what was taken." The cold weight of uncertainty pressed against me, my heart racing again. "What do you mean?" I stammered, barely able to comprehend the implications. "They are coming for something much bigger than you realize. You must choose your next move wisely, because it could mean life or death for everyone you hold dear." And with that, the call ended abruptly, leaving the words hanging in the air, a sinister cloak of tension wrapping around us like a noose. I met Jack's gaze, panic gripping my heart as my world spiraled into chaos. A crashing on the door shattered the moment, reverberating with the promise of danger. "We're coming in, Michael. Get ready." It was the beginning of something monumental, and as I felt Lily clutching closer to me, I realized this struggle was just a taste of the battle that lay ahead. A battle not just for the puppy, not just for us but for a future we had yet to see, one where invisible strings tangled fate itself. The walls of the cabin seemed to pulse with the rhythm of my racing heart, a frantic melody that matched the thundering knocks on the door. My instincts screamed for action, yet my body felt rooted in place, overwhelmed with the weight of unknown threats and the vulnerability of my family. Jack's expression mirrored my turmoil, his shoulders tensed as he stood ready to support me through the impending storm. "Who were you just talking to?" Jack whispered, an edge of concern lining his voice. He leaped into motion, placing Lily behind him as if his very presence could shield her from the chaos unraveling outside. "I don't know," I replied, my hands trembling slightly as I clutched the phone. "But they're watching us, Jack. They're not just after the puppy, it's something bigger." The gravity of those words settled heavily between us, calling for our attention against the cacophony of boys threatening our sanctuary. From behind Jack, Lily tugged at his shirt, wide-eyed and confused. "What does that mean, Daddy?" Jack turned slightly to kneel beside her, his face softening. "It means we need to be brave, sweetheart," he said, planting a kiss on her forehead. "And that we might need to do something very risky to keep you safe." In that moment, Lily's resolve strengthened, her innocent bravado tempered with a depth that belied her age. "I can help. Just tell me what to do." She gripped the still nervous puppy, as if it were a talisman against the darkness threatening to engulf us. A rumble of laughter broke through the tension. "You ready to play, Michael?" The leader's voice sneered from outside. "Or are you going to keep hiding behind your little girl?" "I won't let them in," Jack whispered, turning to me. "But we can't stay in here forever. We need a plan." I nodded, the weight of responsibility pressing down on me. Outside our door was a chaos of teenage energy and malice, but beneath that noise, something else flickered, an ember of defiance igniting within me. I glanced toward the bedroom, where an axe leaned against the wall, left unguarded. "Let me distract them," I said, a determination igniting in my chest. "While I do that, you and Lily find a way out through the back and into the woods. We can meet at the clearing by the stream. It's safer there." "No," Jack snapped, shaking his head firmly. "We stick together. Always. We can't split up and risk losing anyone, especially now." Panic surged through me as the laughter outside grew louder, a sign that they were gearing up for serious confrontation. "They won't care who they hurt, Jack." "I don't care if it's not the smart move. You can't let our guard down. They'll come for her, and you know it." I watched the flicker of uncertainty in Jack's eyes. He knew the stakes as much as I did, but the thought of losing either of them ignited a primal fear deep within me. "Michael, please," he pleaded, stepping closer. "I can't bear the thought of anything happening to you." "Well, think of something together." As we continued to argue under the weight of impending danger, Lily's voice broke through like a ray of sunshine piercing through storm clouds. "We can all go together or none of us at all." Her small hand reached for mine, and I felt a warmth radiate from her touch, an unexpected flicker of hope amidst the storm brewing outside. "Right, together," I echoed softly, squeezing her hand gently as if her determination seeped into my bones. We would face this together, whether against the boys outside or the mysteries lurking in the shadows. Suddenly, the barricade creaked under an aggressive push as the leader shouted, "Let us in, or you'll regret it." Count down from 5, 1. My heart sank lower, the dread rising like a tide ready to swallow me whole. 2. Lily stilled beside me, clutching the puppy tighter, her eyes shimmering with silent resolve. 3. Outside, cackles of excitement mixed with the adrenaline of impending violence fueled their energy, further solidifying their numbers. 4. A rush of intrepid fear coursed through my veins. This was the moment we either decided to stay put and hope for safety or risk everything to protect each other. 5. In an instinctive action, I lunged for the axe, my heart pounding with adrenaline as I tightened my grip, ready to face the encroaching darkness threatening to break through our door. "First, we survive," I vowed, shooting a glance at Jack. Together, the door smashed open, the wood splintering under the weight of boys who stormed in, filled with mischief and fury. As chaos erupted in the cabin around us, one blaze of emotion surged through. Might was never just about the puppy. It was about protecting the family we had sacrificed for, a future that now felt perilously close to slipping through our fingers. As we pushed back against the tide of noise and fury, I couldn't help but wonder if it was truly over, or if perhaps we had stepped into a larger game than we had dared to imagine. The stakes had now escalated, forcing us to confront our deepest fears or lose everything. And just as the sound of my heartbeat aligned with the thunderous steps coming through the doorway, a startling revelation hit me hard. Our enemies were not simply boys looking for a fight, they were pawns in a much larger scheme. With the doors of fate creaking wide open, I could only hope that we wouldn't be the next victims of a game we never chose to play. The air crackled with tension as the boys flooded into our sanctuary, each one a chaotic whirlwind fueled by misguided bravado and some primal need to unleash their anger. I wielded the axe, my heart drumming loudly against my ribs as the threat loomed large before us. Jack stood resolute beside me, his frame protective as his eyes scanned the swarm of figures seething with energy. "Get her out of here!" I shouted over the cacophony, a desperate plea that clawed its way from my throat. "Now!" But before I could usher Lily away, the ringleader shoved through, a smirk plastered on his face, eyes glinting with malevolence. "Look who finally decided to join the party," he sneered, his gaze locking onto Lily. "How sweet, you brought your little doll with you." A surge of rage coursed through me, igniting a fierce instinct to shield her from the dark intentions swirling in the room. I swung the axe in a protective arc, the blade slicing through the air with a sharp whoosh, just as Jack maneuvered to put himself between Lily and the boys inching closer. "Back off!" Jack roared, a rare fierceness in his voice that made the laughter fade, if only for a moment. The ringleader, momentarily taken aback, seemed uncertain, his bravado faltering. "You think you can protect her?" he rebutted, snickering dismissively while taking a step forward. "She's just a kid. You really think you can scare us off with an old axe?" "This old axe is the least of your worries," I growled, teeth clenched as I steadied my grip. My body felt like a tightly wound coil, ready to spring at any moment, but before another word could escape my lips, the sound of a bark darted through the room, cutting through the tension. The puppy, a fluffy bundle of affection whose innocence stood in stark contrast to the impending violence, bounded toward the ringleader, tail wagging. In this moment of absurdity, laughter erupted again, but this time it was tinged with something unexpected, a hesitation. "Ah, what a cute little mutt!" a boy chimed in. "Screw it, you can just keep the damn dog. It's not what we want, anyway." Caught off guard, I blinked, confusion ricocheting through my thoughts. For a brief instant, the boys' unified front wavered, as if the presence of the puppy had momentarily thawed the icy hostility streaming from them. Holding on to this flicker of hope, I took a tentative step forward, still clutching the axe, but lowering it slightly. "Await," I said, my voice quieter now, but it lingered in the air like an uninvited thought. "What do you want? Is it really the puppy, or is it something bigger?" As if sensing the shift in energy, Lily stepped out from behind Jack and slowly approached the ringleader, who had crouched down, a mix of curiosity and disbelief crossing his face. "I'll tell you what we want," he stammered, as the bravado fractured. "But you have to listen first. We didn't come here for a fight." Before I could process his words, Jack surged forward, grabbing Lily and pulling her back to his side as the boys whispered among themselves. I felt the temperature in the room shift. Something heavy and unspoken swirled in the air, threading between us. "What do you want?" Jack demanded, anger simmering just below the surface, but now mixed with the uncertainty of this unexpected moment. One boy, whose name I couldn't recall, stepped up, still glancing back as if fearing retribution from within his own group. "We just want to be heard. We didn't know what else to do." He glanced at the puppy, seemingly unaffected by the tension that hung around us. "We have our own battles." The revelation sent a shockwave through me. It felt surreal that they were policing their own fears and insecurities, channeling them into this chaotic confrontation. We were all human, all fighting our personal wars, even if our methods were starkly different. But why target us? I pressed, trying to grasp the essence of their animosity. "Because it's easier to attack someone else than to face our own pain," the ringleader finally admitted, dropping his bravado as he met my gaze. "And because I was scared of what I couldn't understand." My heart ached as I glimpsed the vulnerability beneath the hostility. Just then, an unexpected noise pulled everyone's attention, the unmistakable sound of sirens in the distance slicing through the charged atmosphere, a reminder that our sanctuary might not hold forever. "Look," I interrupted before chaos erupted once more. "If you want to talk, we can. Just promise to let her go." I cautiously stepped back, hoping the gesture wouldn't fracture the fragile connection we were forming. Lily interjected, her voice pure and unwavering. "We can help you if you help us first." Her words hung in the air, and for a moment, I could swear the atmosphere shifted once again. As the boys exchanged uncertain glances, I felt a surge of defiance intermixed with a gentle flame of hope, yet within me lay a gnawing uncertainty. What if this was all a trap, another level of betrayal leading us deeper into darkness? The ringleader hesitated at the vulnerability reflected in Lily's eyes. The moment felt suspended on a delicate precipice. But the sirens grew louder, and I recognized that time was not on our side. I turned back towards Jack, who grasped my shoulder as we stood shoulder to shoulder. "We have to decide, now," he said urgently, the edges of our world blurring dangerously as the weight of our choices pressed down upon us. I stole one last glance at the boys before the sirens permeated the space, drowning out their voices, but the look of uncertainty on their faces solidified my resolve. We needed to open a dialogue, and perhaps the fragile connection sparking between us could illuminate the darkness or crumble under its weight. But as I stepped into this chasm of uncertainty, I also realized something startling: this was only the beginning. Our fight was not just against them, nor merely for our safety. It was a deeper struggle that hinged on trust, clarity, and the longing to understand what lay beneath the surface. As the sirens pulled us toward the brink of confrontation, one thought swiftly followed: this was the moment that would decide our fates. Would we emerge as a shattered family or one intricately woven in empathy? The echoes of their laughter and their pain filled the air, marking the crossroads of our destinies. And right then, amidst the swirling chaos, my heart plummeted at the thought of what sacrifice might be needed to cross the bridge to hope. Each heartbeat whispered a truth, unresolved, as shadows loomed, and the sirens closed in. The chaos that surrounded us shifted with almost palpable energy, a tension that wrapped tighter than any rope. Jack and I stood like pillars, protecting Lily and uncurling the knot of fear that threatened to choke us all. Outside, the wail of sirens grew louder, a stark reminder that other eyes were watching us now, waiting. "Put the dog down, and let her go," I bellowed, my voice echoing across the confined space, desperate to assert control over the chaos. The ringleader hesitated, a flicker of uncertainty flashing across his face as he glanced down at the puppy now perched protectively in Lily's arms. "You don't know who we are," another boy shouted, a note of vulnerability creeping into his bravado. "We're no one important. Just kids trying to get by." "Then why be cruel?" Lily's small voice, filled with innocent authority, broke through the noise. "If you want to be heard, just talk to us." In the fraught silence that followed, I could see the boys grappling with the unexpected turn. They were toughened by a world they felt powerless to change, their bravado suddenly wavering against Lily's unexpected kindness. Feeling the weight of their turmoil, I stepped closer, still wary, and lowered my voice. "We've all been kids trying to find our way. We have our own battles. But we don't have to fight each other to feel powerful." For a heartbeat, I watched as the ringleader's fingers trembled. He looked away, torn between the facade of dominance he had constructed and the reality of the vulnerability he couldn't shake. It was a moment pregnant with both fear and hope, a tipping point where understanding could blossom, and then I had a thought. "If you let her go, if you walk out that door without violence, we can help you. We can figure out what's really important." The air vibrated with the possibilities woven into my words, a fragile line connecting us, dangling between mistrust and the quiet yearning for understanding. The sirens wailed ever closer, echoing the weight of urgency hanging over us. "You think those cops care about you?" one of the boys retorted, eyes narrowing. "They don't." "I know," I replied, a steely resolve threading through my voice. "But they do care about people. About making sure they're safe." We all heard the pounding against the door then, a thunderous reminder of the countdown. We stood against the line drawn between fear and a chance to connect. With each passing second, the decision hung thick in the air. Lily strode forward, tiny but determined, the puppy still cradled in her arms. "If you want us to listen, then you have to let us help. We can save the puppy and you too," she said simply, her innocence daring them to consider the possibility. The ringleader's face twisted in confusion. It was a mask of anger, but I could see beneath it hopelessness fighting to break free. In another world, perhaps he could be a hero instead of a tormentor. "Please," I urged, feeling the determination pouring from within. "We can fight the right battles together. It doesn't have to end in violence." An uneasy silence enveloped us. The boys exchanged tentative glances, and the ringleader's resolve crumbled, if only slightly. "What if it doesn't work? What if it's a trick?" he murmured, his bravado fading under the weight of truth, or offering to listen. Will you take that chance? Jack replied, a hand reaching forward to bridge the divide. Just then, the door buckled again under another heavy blow, sending adrenaline rushing through me. We need to decide, I shouted, the urgency igniting a fire in my chest. And that was when the ringleader drew a deep breath, as if summoning all his courage. Okay, he shouted to his friends. Let her go. Maybe they can help. I don't want to be afraid anymore. Lily didn't hesitate. She walked forward, confidently placing the puppy at the feet of the ringleader, eyes gleaming with hope. We can find a way, we just need to work together. Watching the puppy scurry toward him, I suddenly felt the pulse of change, the weight of decisions that extended far beyond this moment. Let's go, I told Jack, not wanting to miss this fragile window of opportunity. The boys stood frozen, caught in the tide of uncertainty but swayed by Lily's pure heart. And while I felt the specter of doubt loom heavy, I knew this was our chance. The door burst open with a deafening crash, and the flashlight beams swept into the room, revealing officers in uniform, ready to act. I turned to Lily and Jack, the fire in my belly fiery as I held onto the small flicker of hope within my heart. Together, I whispered, reaching for their hands. In that moment, our fingers intertwined, a symbol of resiliency, family amid chaos standing strong against the weight of the world. The officials looked surprised at the sight before them, confusion blanketing their features, but I didn't let go. We just want to talk, I announced, my voice ringing with conviction, carrying our collective courage into the night. The ringleader wavered, turning back to the other boys, the moments stretching between breaths. It doesn't have to be the end. It can be a new beginning. As sirens faded into an eerie calm, we stood at the threshold, teetering on the edge of the unknown, a chance to bridge what divided us, a way to transform fear into something stronger. My heart pounded in rhythm with their shifting instincts, and as the officers stepped further forward, a yoke of understanding settled between us all. Will you take that chance? I asked again, this time more than words, but a call to hope. A promise that this battle could spark a change. In the fraught silence, a breath teetered before the inevitable answer. Yes, the ringleader finally said, his voice laced with a newfound strength. And with that simple word, I knew our lives would forever be altered, breaking free from cycles run dry. Together, we had sparked a coalition that heard beyond the chaos, a promise of understanding forging a path toward healing. As I held their hands tightly, I couldn't help but feel the warmth of possibility envelop us, igniting a fragile spark that could begin to heal the world, one conversation, one heart at a time. And in that profound moment of clarity, I understood that while battles would arise, it was our unity that would guide us toward the light. Together, I whispered as we stepped toward the light, entwined like roots spreading through the earth, because together, we were more than any one of us could ever be. Together, we could forge our destiny anew. In the end, it was not just about a puppy. It was about love, bravery, and the power to change our stories, one moment at a time. And as dawn broke on the horizon, hope glimmered like stars in our hearts, illuminating the promise of what lay ahead. In the end, we were all threads woven into the vast tapestry of life, different yet bound. And with that simple truth, I knew the journey was just beginning.